And we are back for another casual conversation with the classic. And today I probably have legitimately the biggest guest I've ever had on the show thus far. None other than the legend himself, Paul Wight. How are you today?
I'm good, Justin. Classic. That's a nice way of saying I'm old. I get that. Thank you.
No. See, I have an Instagram page called The Wrestling Classic. So like
I see it, Justin, at the Wrestling Classic. Once I get back on Instagram, remember my Instagram password. I'll make sure I follow you. So
thank you.
I changed phones and forgot the damn thing.
I purposely tried to make this show not have the word wrestling in it so I could interview like other actors and influencers and stuff too. Like I've had Gary Vee on the show and whatnot, right. So we just keep the classic part. We took the wrestling part out of it. Yeah. But how are you doing today? How's life going?
I'm doing good, man.
That's
good,
sweet.
man. Good. Sweet. Just a lot of exciting things going on. Super exciting here in AEW. We got some personal projects going on. I got some friends of mine right there in Vancouver. They're shooting sci-fi series. Alex Ponovich. We're shooting Gen Zeros, which is based out of. We're shooting that out of Vancouver, and I just had a movie that I was in, helped put together called Marcus that dropped on iTunes and all that stuff a couple of days ago called Marcus. Yeah. So it's
what's that movie about?
Marcus is a great movie. It's an incredible. Like I fell in love with the script and wanted to help the movie do well, and I got a part in it. So that's one of those things. Like I was just happy to be part of the movie and get it going. And then the director that wrote it, J.R. Poley, wrote it and says, "Hey, you want to play Gus?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'll play Gus." You know what I mean? It's the story is about a guy named Marcus who's going through his day-to-day life and living with some pretty tough mental health issues. And it's a really well-done script on describing the day in the life of somebody that's struggling with mental health issues. And I play a character, Gus, who's a security guard at Gus's job. And I'm one of the only friends that the lead character has that really tries in his own way, tries to be there for Marcus and understand for him. I mean, this guy just, every time he turns around, he catches it bad.
Yeah.
So it's, it originally won, I think it won a 10-minute film festival award for short film.
Yeah.
And then they expanded off in the short film and made a feature film out of it. And it's just been a great project to be a part of. So far, people are liking it, and they're liking, Owen, the lead character, Owen, the actor, was just amazing to watch work. He's just one of those kind of dudes. It's just like, you're like, wow, man, why aren't you like somewhere doing something? You know what I mean? Like you get around a guy that's got some real talent, and you're like, why aren't you doing more? You know what I mean? And hopefully this will help give Owen a chance to for people to see his talent. He'll get some more bookings, because the dude's got skills. So this
started as like a short film, like a short 10-minute film, and they expanded on it because
it was a short 10-minute film. Won some awards, and then it, JR was talking to me about it. And we I have an entertainment company, Show Daddy Entertainment, and then we were trying to help move it along and develop it into a feature film, and then I got a little part in it.
So Show Daddy Entertainment. What led you to want to start your own entertainment company, Show Daddy Entertainment? For me, as a fan, I'm like, since I was a kid, like I have this like running thing with my audience and like my friends where if there's ever a surprise of anything, I'm always like, oh, it's probably Paul Wight because you've just always been around my entire life. And
I started. Show Daddy Entertainment started 20 years ago. It was a corporation just because. When you're a 1099 independent contractor and you're doing outside projects, you want to work for a corporation, of course, for tax benefits. And, hell, I had a boat for a while. The name of the boat was Show Daddy. Like it was a fun thing to play with. But now that I'm doing more, getting involved more with film and TV and stuff like that, the corporation's already established and it's a cool name. So we're branching out with it there. We're looking at doing smaller things. It's fun. I mean, the thing is now, it's not like it was 20 years ago when you tried to do a film or something. There was just, you had to go through theaters and studios and, there was, one guy that, could basically cut your head off if he didn't like your project. Or now with streaming services and internet services and all these different things, there's a chance for people that are really creative to get out some quality projects that, they may not have $150 million budgets or $250 million budgets, but it's still A lot of quality acting going on, a lot of quality messages, and that's all you can do in entertainment. Is trying to find a story that motivates you in some way, whether it makes you laugh, makes you angry, makes you happy, or hits that nerve in your soul that you can identify with. And that's our outlet. You know, if we didn't have entertainment, I don't know what we'd do. You know.
Have you always had like this interest in acting though? Because like I was gonna say, like I've seen you like on Jingle All the Way and then Waterboy. Like, you've always somewhat been involved. You've had Knucklehead, then the Big Show on Netflix. Like it's always been something there.
I've always had the entertainment bug. I think if you go back to high school and talk to my teachers, I think, you know, they called me a class clown and a smart ass because I was a good athlete, but I was also I didn't mind poking fun of myself, having a laugh. I was a lot of trouble that way, not in a mean way, just I was a character and I enjoyed being a character. And I think that was a natural transition. If you look at me growing up and my antics and some of the things I did, I mean, I was born to do professional wrestling. I think it was only an outlet for someone that had my athletic ability and then also my crazy outgoing personality, because I love people. You know, I love entertaining. I like people having a good time. I remember playing basketball, and I was such a Ric Flair fan because I know Ric Flair's popular right now. And I would dunk and strut and woo, and I would tell guys in the low pants, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. You know, stuff like that. I talked so much trash from wrestling, and then to you know, just the way things work out, and end up being able to do it for a career. Because I had no idea if I was going to be any good at it or not. I remember I was at a critical junction in my life. I was about 20. Let's see, I was 20 when everything went downhill in '92. I lost my dad, my grandfather, both to cancer, and my coach that recruited me since high school got fired, and I was at Wichita State. So, like, all three very influential male figures were kind of, you know, out of the picture. So I got lost a little bit and didn't like the new coach that came in. Nothing against him. He was a great guy. I just didn't click with him, you know. And I did some odd jobs. I sold cars. I was a bounty hunter. I answered phones at a karaoke company, did karaoke shows at night. And I was
always had
to
the
a buddy of
entertainment.
mine. Always had the entertainment thing. Yeah, always had the entertainment thing. And buddy says, "What do you want to do?" He says, "We want to get a tryout for the Bears. Might play football." And I was like, yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know what the hell kind of – I mean, I was a good football player in high school, but high school is a big difference between the pros when guys have – you know, it's a whole nother level. And I said, you know, because at the time I was living on a boat in Burnham Harbor in Chicago. It was the summertime. It was the summer of '93. I had tan lines on my feet from wearing sandals all summer. Yeah. And we were putting together this thing like, you know, I said, I want to try to be a pro wrestler. I said, hell, I might not be any good at it, but, you know, it looked like it'd be something fun to try. And then went through back then just the rigmarole of trying to get in the business. There was always somebody that was going to take, yeah, kid, give me $5,000. I'll teach you how to pro wrestle and I'll get you a booking. You know, those guys were everywhere. But actually trying to get in the business, it was kind of like, you know, not that I know, but if I could use an example, it'd be like trying to get in the mafia. You had to know somebody to get in because it was a very tight-knit business. And I remember being at Walter Payton's club in Chicago, and I met Curt Hennig, and God rest his soul. And I had maybe $60 to my name. And I met Curt Hennig, and I was buying Curt Hennig drinks at the bar because he was going to tell me, I could go. He was going to give me the number to Brad Riggins to go get trained. And this is the bar's closed. And he says, yeah, man, let me run to the bathroom. I'll come back. I'll give you Brad's number.
Yeah.
And he left. He never gave me the number.
Yeah.
So I had like $3 to my name. I didn't have a car at the time. I had to, like, you know, beg some people to give me a ride back to the south side of Chicago. Like, you know, I'm huddled up in a small car with people I don't know that were fortunate enough to give this lost, broke giant a ride back to where I was staying. And years later, when I got to WCW, when Curt Hennig came in the locker room, first thing he goes, "Hey, I see you made it."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, but I love Curt. I love Curt to death. You know, he was just such an amazing, charismatic individual to be around. So, but that's one of my favorite stories of, like, oh, hey, I see you made it. Like, thanks, man. Appreciate
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, obviously, like, my first exposure to you was your time in WCW, and like I had a few questions about that. Like, first things first, like, obviously you're a giant, and immediately they wanted to compare you to Andre and make you Andre's fictional son in the Dungeon of Doom. Like, how do you feel about all of that? And do you still have to deal with that today, where people think you're Andre's son? Because
absolutely, that's a great insight, Justin. Sometimes you still get it that you're the son of Andre, or because I've been around so long, this is a weird thing that's transitioned. Sometimes people call me Andre.
Oh wow!
Like like in some places I've been in, they refer to me as Andre. I remember driving to the Hall of Fame in New Orleans years ago. I think maybe WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. We're driving to we have a car service, and they're taking us to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
and the old man driving, he's probably 55, 56 years old.
Yeah.
He goes, Andre, I love watching you growing up. So, what do you mean, love me? What? You're older than I am. I am not. Like, he got mad because he got mad at me because he swore he watched me growing up when he was a kid. And I'm like, no, man, that was I'm not Andre. At the time I was Big Show, but it's funny. Some people still think that I'm Andre's son because he was such an amazing character. You can only take that with humility. To be compared to somebody like Andre, who did so much for wrestling worldwide, who touched so many people's lives. I remember being a kid and remember the old honeycomb commercials.
Yeah.
The kids in the treehouse, and Andre would have the honeycomb and taste and all that stuff. And I remember driving my mom nuts. Driving my mom nuts to get honeycomb because I wanted to be as big as Andre. Well, wish granted. And then here in a few years ago, I got to be on the cover of Honeycomb too. So it was a pretty cool series of events to be a kid, be a fan, and then kind of walk a little bit in the same boots.
That's great. So, well, the one thing I always find fascinating about you, specifically, like I said, I always bring it up, is that like you've been around since as far back as I remember, and you've literally got to like work with everyone across generations.
I have.
Whether it was like Hogan, Savage, Flair, Luger, Sting, and then it was Austin, Rock, Triple H, Mankind, Undertaker, Kane, and then it was
John Cena,
Stereo, Edge,
all the way through Randy Orton, all the way.
Then you get to like the Seth and the Romans and everybody, and the current guys, Drew and everyone, and it's like super good. That's why I'm always like, I always say it's the Big Show because you've literally worked with everybody. You wouldn't be surprised if you showed up somewhere. That being said,
we used to have a joke when I had a joke when I was in WWE. I was always working Raw and SmackDowns. I worked both brands. And I used to go to Vince. I'm like, well, didn't I get drafted? He goes, you're a giant. You can work both brands. Like, gee, thanks for my 1.5 days off a week. But, we used to make a joke, Big Show, all the shows. I think I went 18 years. Like, every year in WWE, they would do a spring tour of Europe and a fall tour of Europe.
Yeah.
And I think I went 18 years, and those are usually 2-week tours. And I went 18 years without missing a tour overseas.
I feel like someone needs to figure out the stat of how many world champions you've wrestled, and it'd be like a lot throughout the generations.
A lot. I think one time it was a big joke too. I made it to Michael Hayes. I was like, I think I was fighting every world champion in WWE for like 4 or 5 years. I said, at some point, I need to quit competing for this or win the damn thing. Because it's like, I think that was my last title run WWE, where they were kind of like, yeah, well, hell, he's been bucking at this for a while. Maybe we do kind of have to.
Like, you name a wrestler, and you probably like Punk, Bryan, Sheamus. If you name a wrestler, you wrestle them. And I always think it's like, I'm like, it can always be Paul Wight. I wouldn't be surprised.
It was a very, very fortunate career and very fortunate timing, because there were so many people that I got to interact with, from like, just even Macho Man, who was so close. I mean, I lived in Florida, and I saw him every day at the gym early in my career. And, when it was him and I and Hogan would go out to eat, I would try to pay, because I had a job now. I'm not a bum. It's okay.
Yeah.
I can buy breakfast, and I would pull up my credit card, and Randy would say, "No, brother, don't try to run with the Joneses. Put that credit card back in your wallet. Let Hogan pay."
I almost thought you were gonna say he was gonna pay, and then you're like,
no. Randy's thing was whenever we went out with Hulk, he always said, "No, brother, let Hogan pay. Keep that wallet, keep that credit card in your wallet, brother. Don't try to run with the Joneses." He just had some, and it's all a rib, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How was it working with him? Because I remember specifically, vividly, there's one time you were young. Obviously, you're in WCW. You obviously start off with all these guys that have been around for a while, and you had Randy on your shoulder, and you're walking up the steps, and you almost slept.
Fell off the steps.
Remember that? Yeah, and you almost dropped. I think you did drop him. I don't remember, but like
we both hit the ground pretty hard.
What was the reaction? Was he mad about that at all ever?
No, he wasn't mad. He asked me if I was okay. That was the thing about Randy. Randy was one of the most intense, high-strung SOBs you ever met backstage before a match. During the match, he was like liquid Valium. He was so calm. As far as communicating with you, and so with me, he was. Yeah. I can remember backstage, like, Randy had his little area. He had a 12-pack of beer, and if you weren't Randy's opponent that day, you didn't talk to him. Because Randy was one of those guys that was different. Like, Hogan would never sit down and go over match spot for spot.
Yeah.
Hogan would be like, "All right, brother, I'll see you out there." He did that to me at Halloween Havoc. Our match prep for my first match, I had left the power plant. I had about 3 months, maybe 3.5 months of training at the power plant with Buddy Lee Parker and Pez Watley and Mike Winters, Jody Hamilton, and Terry Taylor and Dallas Page, and actually Paul Levesque. Where Paul Levesque and Terry Taylor did the predominant part of my early training, which, Hunter used to say all the time, "Don't tell people that you're getting me heat because you're the shits. So don't tell people I train." He's my friend, of course. But the working with Randy wanted to know before the match, like, he would sit down and hand you a legal pad. And he had his own legal pad, and he wanted ideas, and he wanted written down, and he didn't want to go. He wanted it laid out, A, B, C, and D. But he had the experience to know what would fit and what would fit where, but he had a plan that he wanted to follow.
Yeah.
And granted, that was the first time we ever worked together. I was green as grass. So I'm sure he wanted to make sure he knew what my big ass was doing every step. Okay, right here, you're taking a breath. Okay, right here, you know what I mean? Because, I was a pretty big monster. When I think back about what Hogan did with me my first match, as young as I was and as strong as I was, and just, he was out of his friggin' mind at that stage of his career to take this giant who's never really had a match at a pay-per-view at Halloween Havoc, do a monster truck race, and then a monster truck push-off, I guess, and then, do my first match was Halloween Havoc. And I remember, and I've told this story before, but I remember getting lost in the match. I had Hogan in the corner. And I didn't have any corner offense. I didn't have the high knees like Kevin or the back elbows, or I didn't have the chop then. I didn't have any corner offense. So I'm looking at Hogan, and I got that deer in the headlight look, which he's so experienced, which I get now. But back then, I didn't understand how he knew I was lost that fast. Yeah. I get it now, but back then I just thought it was like magic. And I remember him grabbing my hand, and he goes, "No, brother, don't choke me." And he put my hand around. I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do this in the corner." And we get out of it. But there was about 3 seconds there that I was deer in the headlights, which when you're actually in the match feels like, oh, every single person in this building right now knows I'm lost. Like, you know, the embarrassment and the adrenaline. Nobody knew. I think PWI gave it match of the year, rookie of the year. I got something like that. Bill Apter was always real cool to me back then.
Yeah,
so.
he's a nice
He's awesome. I always love seeing him. He was very instrumental early in my career to give me a lot of hype that was certainly appreciated. I had a good run in WCW. I had a lot of older guys that were very seasoned. I think the 2 youngest guys in the company were, because Triple H had already gone up to New York.
Yeah,
Alex Wright was there.
Yeah, underappreciated a little. Yeah,
you know what I mean. Yeah. It was like I was like everybody's kid brother, And
at that point, you were doing like missile drop kicks. You were doing nip ups. Like you were doing all of
and getting in trouble for every bit of it too. Every old timer would pull me off to the side and cuss me out like, "Brother, you're a giant. You're not supposed to do nip ups. You're not supposed to do drop kicks off the top." Blah 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 blah. And it's like I didn't know what to do. I was so athletic then that I was literally, I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be that Andre-esque character that was what everybody in the industry was used to seeing. Like, I was a fan of, like, Undertaker. You know what I mean? Like, when I watched Undertaker work in WCW, once I really got in the business and really started looking at guys that worked, I looked at Undertaker and just thought, Jesus, he's amazing. Like, everything he does has purpose and direction, but he had a different type of character. This is before American Badass, but everything he did was very deliberate and made sense. And then after getting to work with him and just seeing, you know, just the level that he operates on, it was just great tutelage being under that tree for a while.
So when you are, obviously, I'm sure guys come up to you for advice and stuff, and I'm sure a lot of big guys come up to you advice, the Giants today. Do you give them that advice to, like, maybe not do that stuff too, or what would you
I encourage any talent. And so one thing, I don't carry the old school torch probably as hard as some of the other brethren do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a point early in your career when you're a giant, yes, you have to establish yourself. You have to set your presence, and then you can slowly start to incorporate. But that's a thing that takes time. In the beginning, your key to the game is to be a spectacle.
Yeah.
You know, if you hit the ropes, like, you know, like Ray Phoenix, you know what I mean? And you do Ray Phoenix moves. Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, but it kind of pulls away from it. It's okay to sprinkle that in throughout, but that's a judgment thing that comes in time. In the beginning, you have to be, the old story is David and Goliath.
Yeah.
I mean, most giant guys that come out are never a baby face, because it doesn't make sense. It's hard to get sympathy on a big guy until that big guy can make a connection with the audience. Because here's the thing, as a big guy, when you sell, if you don't sell well or sell convincingly, the crowd doesn't get behind you. The crowd just thinks you're a big puss and you need to get up. Like, what are you laying down for? You big wimp, get up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's very hard as a bigger guy to create sympathy, to tell the story that, no, I'm in trouble, that I need to, because, you know, wrestling is audience participation. Wrestling is making a connection with the audience and getting the audience to invest in you as a talent. Now, if you're a big guy and you're a bad guy, well, that's the oldest story in time. That's David versus Goliath. You can stand there and step on a guy's head, and you can pick him up and body slam him 5 times in a row, and people get like, well, that's a no good piece of trash.
Yeah.
You know, you can evict that kind of emotion, which is why fans come. So I think it's harder for bigger guys as their career develops to get that sympathy, or to get that to get to that point where they like you. And then you take a guy like Taker. Taker's one of the best heels ever in the business.
Yeah.
It's his work, his aggressiveness, the way his psychology, aggressive. But everybody loved him so damn much, we couldn't make him a bad guy anymore. It just wasn't possible. You know, and the worst thing in the world is to be a babyface and go out there with a heel, and the heel is more popular than you, then that screws everything up. But, you know, like, I see what they're doing with Omos in WWE, what they're doing with him so far. They're doing good. You know, the AJ's done a great job of breaking it. Bobby Lashley's done a great job working with him. Like, they're really bringing him in right. And we have a guy in AEW that's coming along. He's really, really green, but man, he checks off a lot of boxes.
That's a Satnam kid, the basketball.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I'm saying, great athlete, smart kid, funny kid. I gave him shit the first time we were talking. I said, okay, you can do a headbutt. He goes, I've never done a headbutt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, with a forehead like that, you've never done a headbutt?
Yeah.
You know, like, no, brother, you're going to learn how to do a headbutt. So, but he's a great kid. You know what I mean? So he's somebody that I would love to see continue to grow and continue to develop, because he's got some athleticism. Like, we're in the middle of talking about something one afternoon at AEW for Dynamite. And I said, all right, you need to, if you come out of this corner, so just be careful, because you want to make it from the corner to the ropes. You want to make it in 1 or 2 steps. I said, it might be kind of hard. He's like, well, I can make it in 2 steps. And me being an old timer, I went, oh, you can't. Cocoon. And brother, he took off like a gazelle. 1, 2, hit the ropes, come out. I was like, okay, good for you. I mean, he's got coordination, he's got athleticism, he is strong. So those are things too that come to play, because a lot of big guys in the past were big, but they weren't strong. That's where Andre Andre was always so frightening to everyone that he worked with because Andre was so strong.
Yeah.
That's the thing where you become that good vertical base. That's when guys trust you, because when you pick them up and you're strong, they know there's this less likely of you not being able to handle their weight and dumping them on their head. So that's the thing too, is being a good strong base so you can protect the guys you work with.
And for sure, I'm sure his I'm sure like his coordination stuff comes from his background being in the NBA for a bit and that athletic background and the training regimen and all that. Like he's got that a little bit.
Well, basketball has a great lower body footwork for pro wrestling.
Yeah.
A lot of the post movements in basketball translate to moving in the ring with your feet. You know, he's just got to learn. He's just got to learn to be his, basically just to be his size on some things. You know, it's hard because, you know, everybody, of course, is trying to help, but there's some of the things that I was trying to help him with. He was doing things like a smaller guy was. Just as far as like if he was clubbing somebody across the back, it looked like somebody smaller. Now you got to open up, and those big dramatic things of opening up, and when he throws his arm up in the air, his fist is 9.5 feet in the air. By the time it comes down across somebody's back, it's an impressive to the entire audience to see. I think he's doing great. I mean, at first, when I first met him, I met him in Jacksonville, and he was super polite. And I was like, he's no tall basketball player. We'll see. And then after playing around a little bit, I'm like, I'm excited to see, because he's got a great work ethic. I mean, you know, you tell him, you give him advice on something, and he goes and he works on it. He comes back a week later, and he's doing it. So that's all you can ask for in a talent, because none of this stuff is done immediately overnight. This is reps and reps and reps, and you have to experience it. And the one thing I tell all the younger talent is you have to believe what you're doing, because if you don't believe in it, the fans won't believe in it either.
You'll see right through it.
So make sure you'll see right through it. You don't have to do a whole bunch of shit, but what you do, you have to believe in, and then they'll believe as well. So I think he's going to be good. I think so. I mean, you know, this world's a crazy world and all that, but I think he's got all the right tools to be a very successful powerhouse in AEW in the years to come.
If I ever do see Satnam Singh or Omos do a nip up, I will believe it's homage to the Giant.
Yeah, I don't know. Satnam might be able to do it. I don't know if Omos can.
Yeah,
but Omos is a hell of an athlete too. You know what I mean? He's a hell of an athlete too. But both of them have the same problem that a lot of big Giant guys have.
There is now. There's more than usual. There is. We still got Braun out there doing his
thing. They got to get meaner. They got to get meaner. That was the thing that started me off in my career too. I was too nice when I first started. You know what I mean? I mean, I had been experiences in real life where I had to be mean, but I had to learn to translate that. And I remember Kevin Nash, because that was the thing that was always with me, was trying to get me fired up where I looked angry, where it was believable. Yeah. I remember Kevin Nash saying that, because Kevin Nash always had a great way of looking like he wanted to rip somebody's head off. He had a real good FU look in the ring. And I would talk to Kevin. He says, you know what I think, bro? He says, in my mind, in a working way, but in my mind, I think that dude just slapped Tristan or you know what I mean, slapped his kid or something like that. So he found a visual aid in his brain to translate it to his face. Like an actor, you find a way to find the motivation to get through the scene that you're doing. And the same thing in wrestling, because if the anger is contrived, it comes off pretty dumb. You know what I mean? But then you see a guy like Brock Lesnar who has a stern look. Brock Lesnar doesn't look like he's contriving anything. That's why I love watching him work for a big guy. I think one of the greatest big guy, little guy matches ever was him versus Eddie Guerrero. I mean, the story 100%. They told is just classic. Like, you know, that's one of those ones you give your left testicle to have a match that good. You know what I mean? Not the right, but the left. So, you know what I mean? But that kind of presence where he's always moving forward. But at the same time, Brock's such a talent that if you get after him, he sells too. And the selling is believable, and he bumps and he feeds and he'll sell. But if you don't get after him, he's going to eat you up. And that was one of the things that I had to learn. I had to learn as well in my career. Was there were a lot of times in my career I was waiting for somebody else to do something. Yeah, I was waiting. I could never get what looks so wrong in my matches. Why do I look so slow? Why do I not look aggressive enough? What's the problem? Well, yeah, you're waiting for something to happen in the match. You have to learn to trust in time. You learn that if they're not coming, I am.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to sell. If I want to stop selling, I stop selling. You know, those are things that come in time, and once you feel that and get a flavor for it, it changes your ability to work. You know, and I learned that with Stone Cold in England. You know, I worked with him every night for about 10 days, and he would go out there and kick the shit out of me for about 3 or 4 minutes, hit me with a stunner, beat me, and pour beer in my head, and that was the match.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, okay, well, it's Stone Cold. You know, what do you want to do? He's the top guy in the company, and we had a match, and I think it was in London, and I was about to go up and start working, I think, a big program with Brock, and so Vince wanted to get me a win not on TV, but it was like it'd be a live event, dark match win after TV, just to get people talking. And I remember Stone Cold had a styrofoam cup and he was chewing tobacco at the time. He goes, "God damn, Vince, these people paid a lot of money to see Stone Cold Steve Austin drink a few beers and hit a few stunners, not do a job to the freaking Big Show." And I'm like, "Man, dude, I'm standing right here. Like, you know this is fake, right? Like I'm trying real hard to be careful with that stack of dimes you call the neck. I'm trying to be real hard to be careful with you. Like, don't trip, bro. You know."
Yeah.
And Vince was like, "Oh, let me talk to him." So they go over and talked, and you know, about 10 minutes later, Vince comes back and goes, "Well, Steve does have a point. You know, you need to be more aggressive." I'm like, I bet Steve does have a point, as much merchandise as he sells, the politics of it. And I'm sure. Okay. So we have the match, and I had knocked Steve out of the floor, and I got back in the ring. And when I rolled into the ring, I mistimed it, and I pulled his shorts up his butt a little bit. Didn't do it on purpose. It was just a mistimed thing. Well, Steve thought I was, you know, being an asshole. So when I got in the ring, he was like, 3 times of those big knuckles, he hit me right in the chin. He goes, "Off the tight, you big son of a bitch." And I remember losing it. I grabbed him by the face and picked him up and ran him across the ring and bent him over the turnbuckle. Like his toes were dangling when I ran him across the ring. And I bent him over the turnbuckle, and I had some choice words to him. And he goes, "There you go, kid. Way to fire up." and then everything after that, I no-sold. If he punched me, I no-sold. I headbutt him. Or I pick him up and slam. I treated him like, and he was the biggest top guy in the company at the time, but I treated him like I would enhancement talent. I body slammed him. I side slammed him. I didn't, you know, you're going to respect me, you know. Like, you know, you're going to have to come after me now. Then he hit me with a stunner. I said, well, that's the match. It was fun. You know, I felt like I had fought well for myself at the time. I remember thinking that, like, well, I think I'm getting this. I put up a good fight. Yeah. So as he's covering me, he tells me to kick out. And now I'm thinking, if I kick out in his finish, I'm going to get fired. You know, like this, because you got to be, there were so many levels of people, not that Steve would ever do that, but you've heard the horror stories about the old timers, like, this dude's going to get me fired. Yeah. And in this less than a 3 count, I had to know that the referee was there. The referee heard it. The ring posts are mic'd. All this goes through your head in a split second. So I kicked out. Just get up. He hit me with another stunner. He covered me. Let's kick out. He hit me with 7 stunners.
Oh, wow.
And every one got louder and louder. And he's telling the story of, like, I am shooting this big bastard with my howitzer, my biggest cannon. You know, and it was the match. That was the match where I learned like nothing before in my career, where I learned what I brought to the table. You know, and how the more I made guys earn stuff, the more they had to earn it, the more it meant, and the more I could get them over. And then after that match, I went in and worked with Brock, and I was the first one to beat Brock for the title, and first one to beat Brock in WWE. So after that, I was off and running, because I started getting a feel of what I needed to do to add to the table to make everyone else around me better and fulfill the role that I needed to fulfill. And I mean, it worked out. I mean, I had a job there for a long time. So
and for many years,
but that's all because of Steve.
Yeah, that's crazy. And for many years, no, it meant something to beat you. Like, it meant something because.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, you don't want a giant as a champion, because it's kind of like, you know, the giant's the guy you want to beat to go fight the champion, or the the giant's the guy that you want to, as a champion, you want to fight off against.
It's like you got to slay the dragon. Like, you got to slay the dragon and get to the king, and you're the dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So once I was able to step into that role, you know, I worked all the time. I worked heel. I worked babyface. I know the fans have had more turns than NASCAR. I'm pretty proud of that. No, because it's like it shows the versatility and the faith that a company has in you to help get over other talent. Because it's not always about you getting wins and wins. That's one thing that's always been very disgusting for me is when talents talk about wins. It's entertainment. Like
there's an art of getting over with a loss, and there's a lot of wrestlers out there that have done that in the past. Obviously, one of my favorites is the Macho Man, and he didn't win a lot on big matches, but he was always
neither did Jake the Snake. You know, Scott Hall gave me some advice. You know, Scott Hall gave me some advice all the time. He says, "Bro, he says they can tell you the finish, but they can't tell you how to get over."
Yeah,
you know, and if you do your job right, and I try to translate this to younger talent when they're putting their matches together, because, you know, sometimes they'll have a great reaction to their match in the middle of their match or 3/4 through, but their finish is kind of flat. And I always tell them, I said, you need to build your match, you know, from the finish all the way back so that the biggest reaction is the finish.
I mean, I think another
fans counting.
No, go ahead. No, I just came to my head. I'm like, another great example that we talk about currently is like the things that, like, the fact that they keep booking Dax Harwood in singles matches, and he's not winning any of them, but FTR just is getting more and more over. You know,
that's the thing. You know, that's the thing. You don't have to get wins. I mean, I always thought that was a shallow point of view, that if you determine the validity of your career is depending on your wins. You know, you should determine the validity of your career by how many years you worked at a high capacity, how many you worked at a top level, how many top guys did you work with, you know, and how many people have you affected around the world that made an impact on them. There were people gave enough to remember your name, you know, as a talent, you know, and I think that's all you can do. I mean, you know, it's entertainment. It's not real. You can't take this stuff home with you. And, you know, I can't walk around my house and tell everybody I'm, you know, whatever. Like, you know, hey, the trash needs to go out. I got to take it out. There's a cat box that needs to be dumped. Guess what? I'm dumping a cat box.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff stops at the door. But that's why I never was concerned in my career about win-loss records. It never bothered me. That was never my thing. Once I figured out who I was and what I brought to the table, I got just as much joy and passion of getting my shoulders pinned and hearing that crowd loud, where I've done a great job of making the talent that I worked with, you know, whether it was Roman Reigns or John Cena or you know, Rusev back in the day, Miro, you know, those guys. I can say, like, you know, hey, at some point along their career, I helped have a huge impact on what they were doing and help put them on the way to people realizing that they're a legit competitor. So, you know, that's all I can ask for.
100%. Once again, it meant something to face you and beat you, and you did that for a lot of guys.
Hope so.
In the last 10 years or so. Let's talk about it. What made you make the decision to head over to AEW? Now you're in All Elite Wrestling. You're All Elite, as I like to say.
All Elite. I love it. It's such a great place to work. That's the thing for me. I was so proud of all my entire career at WWE. I know somebody said to me, a friend says, "I can't believe you left. You threw away all that body of work." And I'm like, well, yeah, I threw away, if you want to say it. I don't think I threw away. You know, it was a character that, you know, WWE owned the intellectual property of. You know, it's just like if I was an actor and I played Captain America for Marvel. You know, I'm an actor that played the Big Show for WWE. That character it's not, just because I'm not allowed to be called that name anymore doesn't mean that people don't know who I am, doesn't mean that I still can't go out and do the same things that I did without that moniker. Yeah. For me, it was about just opportunity. I really felt like in WWE, I had done everything that I could do there. You know, I knew that I really wanted to do commentating. I really wanted to get into commentating. And I didn't see a point in WWE for me to get in the commentating reps that I want to get into. I mean, they wanted me to do more of an ambassador type role and do a lot of media and international partnerships, relationships. And that's all great stuff. But there's something to challenging yourself as a talent that always sticks with you. You have to challenge yourself. And for me, I saw what was going on with AEW. I saw how they were building this, for lack of a better term, this underground movement. They knew it was serious. They got a deal with TNT, so they got a legit TV deal. They were backed by somebody legit, because I'd met Tony Khan years before. So I knew Tony was legit. I knew Tony was a smart fan. I knew he understood the business, and I knew he had the bucks to back it up. You know what I mean? So for me, when my contract expired with WWE, I reached out to Tony, and it was like, yeah, I want to do commentating, and I still want to compete a little bit here and there. And Tony was super excited for me to come on board, and it was just a good fit. I like the hunger at AEW. There's a lot of really hungry talent at AEW that are incredible talents that don't fit the mold of what the only game in town has told you what a professional wrestler should look like, or a sports entertainer. This is a sports entertainer should look like. A sports entertainer should have a six-pack. A sports entertainer should have on spray tan. A sports entertainer, you know what I mean? All these different things. Whereas, you can get a guy like Eddie Kingston who's great to watch. You know what I mean?
Fantastic.
You know what I mean? And there's no offense. And by no means am I saying any offense to Eddie's physique. I'm just saying that Eddie is someone that wouldn't get the spotlight like he does in AEW, even though it's deserved so. He's a great character.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent in AEW. They're incredible. Orange Cassidy.
Great.
Do you think Orange Cassidy would be able to get that gimmick over? They would have given him a chance to do that.
No,
they
would
have now. They would now because he's got it over. I mean,
it's established now. Yeah,
it's established. They're like, oh, that works. You know what I mean? But just that kind of out of the box thinking and uniqueness and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus and Penta and Ray Phoenix and Wardlow. I've seen Wardlow grow since I've been in AEW, how he's went from that bodyguard thing on the side. Now he's becoming a good powerhouse for AEW. And I think it's going to be a big draw. He's doing well. Like the fans are starting to dig him, and he's doing well.
Outside of commentary, are you wearing any other hats backstage, or is it just the commentary in wrestling?
Just the commentary. There's a lot of great. There's a lot of great producers backstage. I mean, my God, you got Arn Anderson backstage, Tully Blanchard, Billy Gunn. I mean, Jesus, if you can't put a match together with those three guys around, you don't need to be in the business. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm always willing to give insights on things, but like I tell the talent too, when you come to someone like me after a match, hindsight's 20/20. Anybody can pick a match apart after it's already happened. The thing is to try to take the pointers that people give you after your match and remember where they happened so that you can learn from those mistakes and learn about, turning your back on a heel or ignoring the referee or using a 5 count to your advantage. I mean, there were so many things like, or 10 count to your advantage. There are so many little things that I pay attention to more. But other than that, for them, it's just, they've got to make that connection with the audience.
Yeah.
And that's all I encourage them to do is just to be authentic and make a connection with the audience and grow from there. So, but the overall environment there is very conducive to learning and growing. Because if you have a promo in AEW, you have a promo in AEW. There's not 17 writers that look like they just got out of high school that's handing you a 2-page, sheet of paper like, Vince wants you to say this, in Big Show character or whatever. No, you actually have a promo, and it's not going to seem as polished. It's not going to be as produced, but at the same time, it's going to be pro wrestling. It's going to be raw.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest moments in pro wrestling history weren't polished.
That's why when I was younger, I was drawn to the WWF at that time and WCW because it felt like, it was authentic. If Piper messed up on the mic, it was okay. He would catch himself.
I mean, it was authentic. Back then, the Attitude Era, man, everybody was swinging from the hip because everybody was trying to outdo everybody else.
Yeah.
And you wanted to outdo the other company. You wanted to outdo your competitors in the locker room. the competition level is high, and that's one of the things that I like about AEW is the guys and gals are competitive.
Yeah,
the girls are very competitive there. They're fighting very hard to get their respect and make sure their matches are good. And and some of the women's matches have been absolutely amazing in AEW. So that's just a testament that whole that whole bridge has been crossed and paved over now. It's not even a bridge anymore. It's a highway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're male or female now. You're given the opportunity to go out there and tear the house down. And I like that equality. It's not a TNA show. You know what I mean? As far as it's about talent and getting over.
People invested in the women just as much as the men now at a serious level.
100%.
About it. Like, of course, on both sides, women will find men attractive and men will find women attractive. But at the end of the day, they're all taking.
That's just the business.
Yeah.
I remember years ago being on tour, and I think it was Becky Lynch and of course you say Becky Lynch and Charlotte now, like everybody like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
But I remember years ago, like we were working overseas and the girls had gone on just after intermission, which they call the popcorn match.
Yeah.
Because it's after intermission. And I always sat where I sat in the monitor. And I remember I was on after them and was thinking to myself, like, ooh,
yeah,
I had to lace my boots up and work hard. And I told everybody, I said, I'm telling you what, right now, guys, them two girls are going to main event at WrestleMania someday. And I remember a couple of people around laughed at me. A few years later, they did just that. So, I mean, that's the thing now, especially in AEW, the opportunity and the ability to succeed is wide open because Tony doesn't serve anything other than AEW growing and the talent growing and everybody growing together. So it's a great environment. It's a great environment.
You see risks being taken on this show, whether it's going to hit or be a miss, risk taken. And then if it's a miss, it's a miss. But if it's a hit, we'll roll with it. But like
that weigh-in scale, one of the first things I did with Cody's weigh-in.
Yeah.
And that was a freaking disaster. And I remember coming back, and I went, "Yo, man, what the fuck is that?" And so I said, "Oh well, Cody didn't want it to look like a WWE production." I went, well. He succeeded because it was wrong. But that's
they try things. The company try things, and I think I appreciate that more than
it's okay to fail. And
not trying things.
Yeah, it's okay to fail, and that's the thing. Sometimes when some things get so overproduced, it almost sets the image that no one can fail.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and that's not how it works. I mean, failure creates the best success.
100%.
So I love the fact that it's like that. Like, yeah, we'll throw some stuff against the wall, and that was a Randy Savage idea motto too. His brother, he can throw 99 pieces of crap against the wall, one might stick.
Yeah,
which I remember being younger, going like, okay, why would you want to? Okay, that was just I get it now that I'm older, but when I was younger, I think I was too focused on the throwing crap part of it. So.
On commentary, right now you talked about a lot. Like, there's a lot of familiar faces in AEW, obviously, like Punk's, Brian's, Jerry, familiar faces, but there's a lot of young faces. And you're on commentary, you get to see a lot of them on Dark, where they get their first, exposure and stuff like that, and then they get signed in the company. So I'm curious, like, is there anyone you want to work with, and are we going to see you work again pretty soon? Or
there's a lot of talent that I work with. Of course, Satnam, of course, I definitely want to work with him. One guy that I'd like to work with, I think, before my career is over, would be Kenny. I'd like to work with Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Just because I really got to experience Kenny Omega there in AEW. Well, I knew him. I'm familiar with him. But, when you're in a different company, you're watching your company doing your thing. And that was one of the great things I've seen Kenny. I'm like, wow, that guy does some good stuff. Like, we could – I have a lot of fun with him. Either way, heel or babyface, like you can rock with that guy. Of course, Cesaro's back in AEW, so Claudio. So I would love to work with Claudio again. He's just an absolute cream puff to work with. I had so much fun with him. Can't have a bad match with Claudio.
No.
And there's some of the younger talent too. Like I always tease Darby Allin. I said, if I ever get to work you, I'm gonna have people riding. Because like Darby Allin, somebody I'd want to work if I was a heel. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't need to take big bumps. Trust me, I'll keep everything right between the ropes and I'll have people upset.
Yeah, and he is a good ultimate underdog. People love him, so like they don't want to see you talking him around
at the right moment, hitting the coffin splash on me and catching a 3. A win, like if we tell the story right, like that's the kind of stuff you live for.
Gotta get you swinging him around on a stretcher like Rey Mysterio, you know?
Oh my gosh, yeah, swinging around the coffin. Powerhouse Hobbs, Hobbs is another one I'd like to work with. He's tough and coming along. Wardlow, Ricky Snarks. I'd like to beat the snot out of Ricky just on pure principle.
He's great too.
I say that with love. I love Ricky. He's a good kid.
Yeah,
he's a good kid. I tell him all the time. I said I just like to slap the skin off of him with a few chops. Yeah. He's like, no.
He's got that like easy to hate look, you know, like he's arrogant and cocky.
Yeah, he does.
It's great. Are we going to see you in the ring anytime soon, though? I feel like it's been a minute.
I mean, we're working on some things.
Okay.
Right now we've had a lot of incredible talent just come in, and my thing wasn't to come in and take over main event spots and run for titles and do all that stuff. My thing is more of a slow boil kind of deal. So when the opportunity presents itself, Tony and I have a couple ideas lined up. So
looking forward. I have a little bit of a fun question here now. A little bit of a fun question.
Okay.
You got blood and guts, right?
Okay.
You're the leader. You have 4 people to put on your team to walk into blood and guts against. I don't know anybody. We'll figure it out. But who would be on your team out of that AEW roster?
Out of AEW roster? Anybody I want?
Anybody you want.
Oh, okay. I take Billy Gunn.
Okay.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Because Billy is he's got everything there is that you want in a partner and a teammate. Yeah. I would take Billy Gunn. I definitely take Jericho. I know I'm picking guys that I work with.
This could be like the OGs against the new kids on the block.
Yeah, I'm picking guys that I know that are mean, guys that I know that can get dirty, and guys that I know that are super, super competitive. I would take let me see. Who else would I take? I would take definitely CM Punk. Got to take CM Punk. Like you'd be definitely take Daniel Bryan. Definitely take Bryan Danielson. I know I've all worked those guys. A couple of AEW guys that pick up along the way. I'd take Wardlow.
Yeah.
Definitely Kenny Omega too. Definitely Kenny Omega.
Well, Kenny Omega.
I know I picked a lot of older guys, but I picked guys that I know can get mean if they have to. And I think that's in a game in a competition like Blood and Guts. It's not a beauty pageant. You want guys that are mean. They can get it done. So there you go.
So Billy Gunn, Jericho, CM Punk, and Bryan. And if you had some younger guys, it'd be Wardlow and Omega. That's solid.
Yeah, Omega, yeah, it's pretty solid.
How cool is it that CM Punk
is Ray Phoenix and Penta too. Ray Phoenix and Penta. Ray Phoenix is amazing. I'm a huge fan of Ray Phoenix.
Yeah, let's go the Wild. Yeah,
huge. Yeah, he's unreal, bro. He does stuff that just to me doesn't seem possible. He's just in Penta. My nickname for him is Cemento.
Yeah.
Whenever I see Penta, I'm like, Cemento, very stiff. He goes, no, work to the right. No. I'm like,
I remember when I first saw them, for someone that's watched wrestling for like the whole 30 years of my life, like every time I see something new, I'm like, oh, I never thought I'd see more new things. But those two, when I saw them do some stuff in PWG, I'm like, oh, wow, who are these guys?
Unreal. Unreal. Like Ray Phoenix and Penta have done some stuff that I've just, just like the Young Bucks too. The Young Bucks do some stuff that's completely out of the box.
100%.
Completely out of the box.
I think that's what got them to where they are. Like it's like everyone's
of course. And that's the thing about the Young Bucks is they weren't classically trained. They basically trained themselves in the backyard. So they weren't forced in that constricted box of psychology and wrestling thinking like the rest of us were. That's why some of the way they put their matches together and super kick parties and all these things, the crowds go absolutely insane for them. And that's what you want as a talent. You want the talent. You want the crowd engaged.
All 4 of those guys, Penta, Phoenix, and the Young Bucks, they've somehow made themselves an attraction, but because of their styles. Like they're their own attraction. Like you can put them up at any point. You're like, oh, I'm going to get a Young Bucks match. Or I'm going to get a Lucha Brothers match. And you know what you're going to in store for. But it's like they're an attraction. And it's a really cool place to be. Like no matter what. They don't need the belts or any of that. People are going to want to see them because you don't know what you're going to get.
Because they got over. They made that connection with the audience, and they got over. That's a beautiful thing. Once you get over, you don't need all that rigmarole. You don't need a ballet or cigars or fur coats or any of that other garbage. Once you get over, you just go out there with your boots and your tights and you get it done.
You were there for the whole thing. How weird is it that CM Punk's actually back?
I think it's great. It was very tough because Phil was such a hard competitor, and Phil's a guy that demands a lot of himself as a talent, and I think he just got burnt out towards the end. I mean, just like anything that works, as long as it works, it'll get run until it burns out. And I think Phil just got burned out. I think he's a lot happier here in AEW. I mean, some bum luck with his foot, but he's a smart dude. He eats right. He takes care of himself. So, he's fast on the road to recovery. I'm sure he'll be back soon. But he's a great addition. He's a great addition for little things like storytelling, because a CM Punk match is a great match to watch because it never starts out gangbusters.
Yeah.
It always builds. And usually the last couple minutes as it goes into the finish and the comment, you don't know who's going to win. There was a great match in AEW. One of the best matches I've seen in a long time was actually Christian Cage and Frankie Kazarian. Like they had a match, like you honestly, by the end of it, I couldn't have told you who was going to win that match.
Yeah.
And that's a great story when you can find guys that can put that story together and get the crowd emotionally invested like that. And Punk is definitely one of those guys. And plus, he's one of the greatest promo guys of all time.
Yeah.
I know Max Caster thinks that he is, but
there's an art to like getting people into the match before the match actually happens with a good story. And then if you're invested in that story, then the match, like it's so much. You don't need to be doing all the crazy stuff because you're just invested in the story so much. So I think Punk's always been
you don't have to do crazy. Just tell a story and keep people invested. And that's the thing. If you can keep your audience invested, you're good.
You've had a ton of memorable moments in your career with a lot of different celebrities, from Akibono to Floyd Mayweather to like celebrity after celebrity after celebrity. But the one I think a lot of people forget about is that you were in the Thong Song with Sisqo.
You son bitch.
In the music video, because I've Mayweather's been talked about. Everyone's talked about all the other stuff, but the whole everybody wants the dream match with Shaq that never actually happened, but we've had moments. But Sisqo, the Thong Song, how was that experience?
That was cool. That was an envelope full of cash to come to a park in Baltimore and lean up against a Range Rover and nod when Sisqo rode by on a motorcycle. It literally took 10 minutes of my time to do, and I was blown away by it. Yeah. They were so nice, and thank you for the time. That's great. We got the shot we wanted. And, and I've never been in a rap video before. I don't think I've ever been in a music video since that I'm aware of. But I was like, holy smokes, do you guys want me to pick up some trash or something? Because I was like, should I go pick up the loose cups at catering or something? Because, they just, they were cool with it. And that was one of those little moments of being in the right place at the right time and getting a cool opportunity,
No, it was super cool. I feel like people forgot about that one. So I was like, people.
When you're talking about celebrities, I thought you were going to go with like some of the coolest ones, and I was going to have to say Betty White, like working on stage. Like
that whole run, that whole celebrity guest host run was cool, and then you guys got to interact.
That was
Betty
great.
White, Shaq, all those guys. The one thing that also fascinates me, and I didn't want to bring up the Waterboy thing because I think that just all went over the place, but I'm looking for this captain and say, we'll see what happens with that. But
it's in the works. It's in the works.
The other thing that's fascinating is your friendship with Lenny Kravitz. Like, how did that all happen?
We had the same trainer in Miami. Okay. I was living in Miami, and our Lenny and he would train before me, and I would come in after him, and then we just started talking, and just brothers from another mother. He's just a sweet, sweet person who's got a lot of love, and he always teases me. He says every time he hugs me, he smells like white boy. So. But no, he's a sweetheart, and he used to come over all the time in Miami. He'd always crack me up because he'd come over to my house for Thanksgiving, because we would do at home a Misfits Thanksgiving where we do Thanksgiving in the evening, and we'd probably have anywhere from 25 to I think maybe almost 40 people one year. And just feed everybody. And Lenny would come over to my house with a fork in his pocket and no shoes on. You know what I mean? Like he came over to eat. There it is. And he would stay till 3 or 4 in the morning and be on his 3rd or 4th round of desserts or whatever it was. And it's just good people, really, really good people. And it's funny when I forget that Lenny is Lenny Kravitz, a rock star, fashion icon. He's just Lenny to me. He's just my brother. Like, when I see him, I smile. It's always good to talk to him, always good to be around him. So, it just works out. It just goes to show that people are just people.
100%. And correct me if I'm wrong, like your current theme song, he had a lot of input on, right? Like that was Lenny Kravitz?
Not on my current one. Not on my current one. My current theme song is actually the guy that did the original Big Show song.
Oh, okay.
So that was the iconic part.
I thought you guys were working on something. I remember that.
We're working on a lot of stuff. So
I'm not
getting to tell, so I'm not going to.
But, okay. Yeah, I tried.
There's a you got to find the right music for Captain Insano too. So
fair enough. Fair enough. That also really quickly, since I wanted to ask you earlier, but I didn't want to miss the wrestling stuff because you are a big entertainment buff and you loved acting and entertaining. I'm curious, just as for myself, like, what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie? Oh, dude, it just depends. I think. Wow, movie-wise, favorite movie. I'm going to throw some stuff out that's pretty weird. Like Fifth Element is always going to be one of my top favorite movies.
Yeah.
With Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich and
great movie.
Jean-Paul Gaultier doing the costumes. I loved Fifth Element. Just love the music in it and the whole 9 yards. For dramatic pieces, Unforgiven's a good one. Because I was always such a
the Western, right?
I thought, Unforgiven was good because the character was kind of past his prime. Winning money or whatever it was. But you remember all the movies of Pale Rider and so you knew what kind of an SOB that Clint Eastwood could be.
Yeah.
If he turned it on. And I remember just the whole movie, there's all that drama, and then he gets sick, and he's trying to do the right thing, and, they don't want to shoot the guy and all this, and then, when it all goes bad and he has a drink and you see his, those cold black shark eyes come out, like, that evicts something out of you. That was a good badass moment. Let me see. I'm trying to come up with something good. You threw me off with favorite movie. But it's fine. I watch movies and TVs all the time. So now I'll probably think of something 20 minutes from now. I'm like, I wish I would have said that. But,
that's me in every interview I go to. And they're like, do you have any questions? I'm like, I'll probably have them after I leave. I don't have anything right now for you. But I was curious because, if you've always loved entertainment, like, is there a movie? Like, I remember talking to Jay Lethal, and the first thing he told me was like his favorite movie, because it was from when he was a kid, was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And I was like,
Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory. Yeah. I think like, my first movie that really impacted me, if you want to go back, was 2 movies, was Star Trek and Star Wars.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
I saw those as a little kid, so that's why I've always going to be a Star Trek and a Star Wars fan. I know you're not allowed to be a fan of both, but I am.
Yeah. So. Well, that's cool. I know. I usually want.
I actually did some Star Trek, so
that's actually even cooler then. It's cool when you like something and you get involved with it. It's like life comes full circle. You manifested it.
It does.
I love saying that these days. You manifested. Yeah.
Manifested. I always knew this was going to happen.
Yeah. I like to usually not ask these type of questions because I like these interviews to be like evergreen and you can listen to them years later and everything's still not really on topic of what's happening right now. But Ric Flair's last match, how do you feel about it?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised at all. I mean, here's probably one of the greatest wrestlers ever to set foot in the ring.
Yeah.
Who, any wrestler who's ever decided they want to become a pro wrestler, I guarantee you they were influenced by Ric Flair. Any wrestler in the last 25, 30 years that wanted to be a pro wrestler, they were influenced by Ric Flair at some point in their career. He was the epitome of what being a pro wrestler was when you watched on TV. He had the hair, he had the suits, he had everything that was going on. He talked the trash and he walked the walk.
Yeah.
And I think that that lifestyle that he lived that just looked like everything was top of the morning. You know, everything was on fire. Like I think that's what made it attractive for a lot of us to get into wrestling. No, it doesn't surprise me. You know, I know Rick is going to go out there and give the absolute best performance he can because he doesn't know how to do anything less.
Yeah.
You know?
As of right now, because you still got some time to go. You're not done yet. You're not finished yet. But as of right now, if someone asked you, like, what would you want your legacy to be? Like, how would you want people to remember you?
Remember me? I was a damn handsome, good-looking, bearded man. No, I think my legacy was just, I think just for as big as I was, for being a legitimate giant, but I was also a good worker.
Yeah.
You know, because that's really all it was about. I wanted to always earn the respect of my peers that I worked with. You know, I wanted to know that they were safe working with me, and working with me was going to be a night off, and it was going to be a good match because they had me for an opponent. It wasn't going to be a struggle. It was going to be a fun night. And I was somebody that they'd want to work with every night.
That's awesome. I think that's true, though, and I believe it.
Hope so. I'm sure there's a few people out there go, no, but you know.
Someone you might have chopped a little too hard, you know. But
a little too hard, yeah.
A little too hard. I always loved the shh. That was great.
That all came up by accident one time. That happened by pure accident.
It became
I went to chop a guy. I was in some town somewhere, and I went to chop somebody in the corner, and some guy right in front of me was just blah, 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 blah. And I went, shh. But I was doing it to him.
Yeah.
But the entire arena went quiet. And I was like, ooh, that works. Yeah. And then the chop was super loud after it because everybody was quiet.
Which is great because we've got into a place where everyone woos when you chop. Everybody woos when you chop, but you the shh and you hear it. And I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Well, happy accident. Thanks to the fans. They made that happen.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Thank you very much. I cannot wait till you get back in the ring. I'm looking forward to it because there's a bunch of young guys I want to see you work with. I'm like, you came to AEW.
Yeah, there's a lot of young talent at AEW that I can really help too. Just help them with a little bit of time and things and stuff like that. So
maybe run it back with
Punk. We'll look forward to it.
Maybe run it back with Punk or Sting or something. You never know.
Punk, Sting would be fun.
Yeah,
man, alive. But I tell you what, Sting's moving so good now. I don't know if I want any part of him. He looks like he hasn't missed a step, man. He's
great. I never thought I came to Revolution live in person, and I was like, I never thought I'd get to see Sting live wrestle, and now, and like I did, I'm like, this is the coolest. Like the little kid in me got really excited. I was like, oh, this is great. Yeah. The little Stinger got to live.
Sting was one of the guys I worked earlier in my career every night for months on end. So
yeah. I guess I want to wrap it up. But I guess I should ask you. I know you've told me a couple, but like in that early part of your career, was there one piece of advice that you really stuck with you the entire time?
God, there was big boss man Ray Traylor told me in my career. He says, "Always be nice to people on the way up because you're going to meet the same people on the way down."
Oh wow!
So it was just about treating other people with respect and being appreciative of what other people are doing for you in the ring, because that was the one thing, like all the great moments in my career and impressive things, a lot of those things were ideas that my opponents had for me because they trusted me. So, just this respect thing, you always thank somebody that you're working with,
That's awesome.
That's just the coolest thing ever. Just, keep that humility and keep that respect, Doesn't work for everybody, but it works for me. So
that's actually great advice, though. It's true though, because I think you can get big headed sometimes when you're on the way up. Some people
you get big headed. It's
and then you gotta learn. Yeah, and then when you're on the way down, or something happens, or an unfortunate event, and you gotta hit back the indies or something. There's a couple of people you might have disappointed there. I think that's a good place to end it, though. And if anything, thank you for coming on here. It meant a lot.
Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it, man.
For a very long time, and it was a pleasure talking to you. It was an honor and a privilege, and hopefully we cross paths in person one day, so I can thank you in person sometime soon. And
definitely come up and say hi if you see me, man.
I will for sure. Thank you very, very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one. Everybody
else.
Thanks,
man. You too, bud.
Ooh, yeah. Dig it.
Dig it.
Dig it, dig it. Thank you so much, sweet. I always sign off like that, so I had to make sure I got it in there.
All you, brother. All good. Thanks, man.
Appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.